Good afternoon, everyone. We will be starting session 1 under track 3. It will be my great pleasure to moderate this first session, which will explore transitions for resilience while focused on water, food, land, and oceans. This specific session will examine opportunities for transformative adaptation and long-term resilience in the water sector, whilst considering challenges associated with climate change. As we all know, water is the key climate change issue for the region, particularly as projections will point to a situation where precipitation patterns will result in less water availability for a large part of the region, coupled with sudden onset flooding as well as sea level rise that will provide challenges for aquifers and water availability and quality. This particular challenge has been witnessed during the past year with water shortages in major urban areas such as Monterrey, Mexico, and Montevideo, as well as droughts right now that we're seeing along the Amazon and in Central America, particularly on the dry corridor. Today's speakers will present an innovative solutions on how they have managed these challenges as central means for sustainable development in the face of climate change. In other words, if we don't look into investing in sustainable water resource management, there is basically no economy, there is no development. So we are pleased to have with us speakers from the private sector, including Ms. Virginia Ribeiro, who's Superintendent for Sustainability and Corporate Governance from Savasep in Brazil, a large water provider, as well as Ms. Maria Eugenia Ayala, who is the Manager of the Division of Policy and Environmental Protection from the Panama Canal Authority, who will present both on their own corporate strategies for adaptive water management and why they're invested in integrative approaches and adaptation for water as part of their own business model. We're also extremely flattered to have with us from the International Development Financial Sector, Ms. Maria Eugenia de la Peña, from the IADB, and she will speak on the role of innovative financial solutions to enable long-term adaptation planning, particularly as it relates to water sustainability. From the policy angle, we are extremely honored to have with us Mr. Abel Centella from the Cuban Meteorological Agency, as well as Ms. Gonda Sadan, who is the Permanent Secretary for Water within the Ministry of Natural Resources from the government of Suriname. They will inform us how they are addressing water management in the face of climate change, including using climate modeling and climate information systems to better assess the impact of slow onset challenges on water from both flooding, inland flooding, and sea level rise and water intrusion. We are also finally extremely pleased to have with us Mr. Ryan Bonaparte, who is managing the Climate Resilient Water Sector Project in Grenada. He will elaborate on how regional efforts, alliances, and partnerships can be leveraged and strengthened to achieve water security within the Caribbean region. The session will provide a space for each speaker to present on their own experience in implementing solutions for transformative water management in the face of climate change. These interventions will be followed by an interactive space with everyone here to participate actively with their own questions to this particular challenge within the region. So with that being said, let's begin. Ms. Virginia Ribeiro, please share with us your particular experience as a main water provider in Brazil and managing your mandate to provide water and sanitation services to nearly 30 million people and doing so in a manner that is both efficient and financially sustainable in the face of water scarcity.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Montserrat. Thank you, my colleagues here that are sharing this panel with me. Thank you for the team of UNFCCC who invited me for this great event to discuss a little bit more about our initiatives in Latin America towards climate change. And so, first of all, I would like to introduce a little bit what is Sabesp, and also I will give an example of a very large project that we are conducting there, which is very related with adaptation and resilience agenda. So to start, São Paulo is a company that was born 50 years ago as São Paulo State Water and Sanitation Company. And nowadays, we are a publicly held company which have its common shares traded in Brazil and also in the New York Stock Exchange. So we are so-called a mixed-owned company. And being said that, today we are served almost 376 municipalities all over São Paulo state, and which represents almost 65 of the São Paulo state population, which turns us as one of the fourth largest water and sanitation company in the world in terms of revenue and population served, with up to 28 million people that receive water treated and sewage collection from Sabesp in São Paulo state. Let's remember that São Paulo is one of the most populated states in Brazil, so we have a very important representation in this field at the country. So going next, please. Just to start with this example that I would like to share with you today, we have this main river that is crossing all over the state, which is called Tietê River, just to make you a picture of how large this river it is and how important it is for our state and also for Brazil. And please go to the next. So we were in 1992 when we have this reality that for almost the totality of the course of the river, it was polluted. So we had almost 530 kilometers of polluted river. And then when that happened, the government of São Paulo state decides to start this project to depollute this river. And it turns out that please the next. In the 2020, we had the reduction of almost 500 kilometers of the pollution spot. So now you can see in the red line, this is the region that is comprised the São Paulo metropolitan region. As you may know, we have São Paulo state, but we also have São Paulo city, which is the largest city in South America. Please next. And you can see in this gray area that we have a population area, very density population area. And we have the river that is crossing all over the city. And if you remember the last picture, you will see this is the main area that is still, the river that is still polluted. So in 2019, we start a very, how can I say that? It's a very, very expansive program to go towards the full depollution of this river. So starting by the tributary from the Tietê River, which is the Pinheiro River. Please next. So we start to facing this, let's say, informal city issues. So we, in Brazil, especially in São Paulo, as a big city in South America, we had this poor infrastructure, difficulty in water and sewage network systems and collections in the wetlands, quick and uncontrolled growth of the population, low per capita income, and occupation in water resources areas. Also, 32% of São Paulo capital's population had a per capita income of up to the half of minimum wage, and almost a quarter of people living in slums that we call in Portuguese favelas, and in regular areas. So this is the last one, is the image of the polluted river right in the middle of the city. Please next. So we start this program, especially in these areas with high vulnerability, with a broad of alternative of engineering infrastructure aspects, such as this kind of infrastructure that we need to adapt to make sure that we make the sewage collection available for as much as people that we could. Please next. We made also a lot of work together with the community, such as environmental education and social programs that were aimed to engage the population within this program to make sure that we could not only serve this population with clean water and sewage treatment, but also help them out, with this new reality and this new possibility that was opened for them. Please, next. And so back into this map showing that in 1991, when this project started, we had all these red light spots was a place within the São Paulo metropolitan region without sewage treatment. Please, next. So when it comes to December 2022, after this main program, which was the new Pinheiros River program, we had the scenario that we have, all this area with coverage, with sewage treatment coverage, and also we had built 3 more sewage treatment plants. Please, next. So now is a recent image from the Pinheiros River in the right middle center of São Paulo. And we have so far invested $400 million, make more than 650,000 new connections, and serve more than 2 million people with our services. And please, next. Now the river, it's fully integrated to the city. You can see these images like people with bicycle, jogging and walking, and with the surroundings and the vegetation very recovered. Please, next. So now the next step, we are getting to a new phase, as I mentioned, towards to the universalization of the services. So we will invest up to $2.2 billion in the next 5 years to serve more than 5 million people. And we are very committed with expansion of the services with circular economy principles, looking not only for, as I mentioned, to the adaptation and resilience agenda, but also to the mitigation agenda. So we are looking for solutions such as collection of the methane that we know that it's a byproduct from the sewage treatment, to convert it into biogas, also to recycle the sewage sludge, and also looking for solutions that promotes energy efficiency. This is, just a quick view on this program that I would like to share with you. And we are working seriously to enhance sanitation infrastructure in Brazil and to promote the access to clean water and sewage treatment, and also to recover the human rivers. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Virginia. This was extremely interesting, seeing how much has been invested into it. Now I would like to give the floor to Maria Eugenia Ayala from the Autoridad de Canal de Panamá, so that she can expand to what they're doing in investing in water for the future.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Monse. And I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit about what we are doing at the Panama Canal Authority, working with communities in the Panama Canal watershed. First, I would like to talk a little bit about the area, the Panama Canal area. In the Panama Canal area, land use is very variable. We have about 58% of forest in the territory, about 3% is covered by shrubs, about 30% by water, and about 4% by populated area. The watershed provides water for the population of the area, but also all the water that it is fresh water used for the population of Panama, Colón, and Panama Oeste province comes from the Panama Canal watershed, and also for the operation of the canal. It's like an open system where we have the inhabitants of the watershed, and we also have the consumers that are outside of the watershed. The relevance of the conservation and protection of the water resource has a very high impact in all our economy and social development. From 2004 to 2020, we have evaluated the impact of our policy and our programs within the watershed. We can say that positively, the area, reforested area has increased by 159% approximately. Agricultural use has been steady, that is positive, as we are not deforesting more areas to increase agricultural practice. And also mature and secondary forest has been steady along the years. Areas covered by shrubs we have been decreasing in 79%. In all this system, all the programs that we work on are focused on the people that live in the Panama Canal watershed, as a means to protect and guarantee that we will have water in quantity and quality for the population of the cities around the canal area, and also for the canal operations. I just want to mention an example, the land title program. This program has been in place since 2006 approximately, and when you listen about titling, you may think, well, how this is related with conservation or with water. The titling program, up to date, we achieve an amount of 10,000 titles issued to farmers, community, small landowners. And having a legal right over the land is a means to open a lot of opportunity for this population. They can access to bank loans, they can access to projects, they can in general improve their quality, life quality conditions, and at the same time improving those conditions helps to avoid non-sustainable practice. All this definitely is related to the conservation of the resource. Under this program also, since the design, we make a great effort to promote women participation, and it is also an extraordinary way to promote gender equity and equal opportunities. Next, please. With this approach, I have to mention that our work in the Panama Canal watershed initiated by 2000. This work initiated when the canal was under Panamanian government administration. So all the programs have grown along the time. We have initiated performing several studies to know the territory, to know its natural resource, to know social conditions. Following, we have worked with public participation, created public participation platforms that we know today as consultative councils and local committee. These are groups that are coordinated by the communities, like a board where institutions, local authorities, even the ACP is called to address main problems that they can find in the territory. We have worked in environmental education, in land conservation, with youth groups, and today we have a network of youth that have a strong environmental leadership. And these young, as an example, today are leading the consultative council also. All those programs have, or right now, have a focus also on socioeconomic development. They were born based on a conservation focus, and right now I can say that we are looking more at that socioeconomic development as a way to protect natural resources and therefore also protect water quality and quantity. All the programs that we have, having people as the center, they have a social focus. We have other that are addressed to institutions, working with local authorities, with institutions like health ministry, environmental ministry. Others are address cultural and environmental education, and not only formal, but also non-formal education, and also working with communities, the school, but also all the community around that school. Today we are also giving degrees to teachers at the schools on a program that the education ministry recognized. On the environmental side, we continue with our programs related to reforestation, restoration also, and working on the economic side with producer, with green business, ecotourism, also a coffee producer, and with the vision that working in social development have a real impact in the conservation of the natural resources. Next. This work also have to be based in a long-term vision. The initial plans that about 20 years ago were prepared have been reviewed. During 2020 to 2021, we worked with the support of the IDB and with a strong participation process in developing the strategy for sustainable development and decarbonization of the watershed and a land use planning. With this document that have been issued, one of the challenges was to consider climate risk that might be present at the Panama Canal watershed, and to evaluate which adaptation and mitigation measure we shall take in consideration in all our plans and programs. And that end with this strategy that have three core values: a smart population growth, socioeconomic development with low impact, and also natural patrimony and biodiversity. But all this considering resiliency and decarbonization. This is our plan for next 50 years. It's not only the Panama Canal Authority plan, it's a plan to be implemented by the canal, but also all the institutions that we work with in the territory and the community, of course. Just to finish, that close connection between the communities and the canal and water that we use is translated in this photo. I just want to comment that during September we have had this visit to the Agua Clara logs of about 2,000 children from different schools of the Panama Canal watershed, just to strengthen that connection with what they do at their community with the Panama Canal also, how those efforts that they do at the local level impact the operation of the canal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria Eugenia. This is particularly interesting from both examples because it is both, this is private money that's being used in making these investments that are definitely expensive and have a long-term vision. That being said, I now give the floor to Ms. Maria Eugenia de la Peña to talk to us about innovative financing that's so much needed.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation for the IDB to talk about this relevant topic that it's money, all the money that we need to do all these big investments in the water sector. So actually we have identified that if we want really to achieve SDG 6, we have to invest 5 times more from what we are investing now, no? So that's a big challenge, no, in the next few years to really fill in this gap of investment, no? So if I don't know if we have the presentation, the slides. Here we have a slide that wants to show, like, specifically that, of course, there's a lot of responsibility from water utilities to finance the infrastructure that is needed through tariffs, through fees, through transfers, no? But there's still this big investment gap that has to be filled some way, no? And there is where innovative finance comes in. Innovative finance that can be bonds, that can be also traditional investment loans, no? So somehow what we as a bank are working is really to find a way to invest more efficiently, and also how we can mobilize different funds, private funds, other different resources from other sources to maximize the impact of what we are doing in the sector in order to achieve, of course, the SDGs, but also to comply what NDCs and national action plans establish in terms of water resources, no? So that's what really we're working strongly on, no? Of course, we have our conventional loans, traditional loans that we try to implement to maximize investment, but now we are really working to help governments structure these innovative structures that targets these two goals, no? Efficiency and mobilizing new funds. So if we go to the next slide, please. Here is just like a quick review of innovative mechanisms that we have identified. In some cases we are working in, no? For example, we have the thematic bonds that I already mentioned. We have thematic investment loans. We have blended finance. We have revenue bonds. We have also water funds and even risk transfer mechanisms, no? So this is just like a big toolkit of innovative mechanisms that we are implementing according to the needs and context in each one of the countries. But this time I would like to focus a little bit more in bonds and blended finance, no? If we go to the next slide, please, one more. I want to comment on what has been done in Colombia, no? Specifically working with 2 water operators. One is the water utility of Pereira, and the other one is the water utility of Bogota. In these two water utilities, it was identified a portfolio of green projects that could be integrated to generate a bond. No? So doing this, there was a very good portfolio in Pereira, which represents more than $40 million, and in the water utility of Bogota of 240 million. That has been structured, and the emission of this bond will come out soon. No? So what we have noticed is that the demand of this type of bonds is higher than what we can now being able to offer. No? So there is a very big potential to continue working in this line. No? And really what is needed is this technical support to define the KPIs that can help us really establish the case for creating these bonds. No? So hopefully this will come out soon, and will be open to the market. If we go to the next slide, we as a bank usually develop these regional strategies that help us identify the regional challenges and also establish these strategic lines that we have to work in. No? And one of these lines in terms of water security is specifically sustainable investment and financing. No? So if we go to the next slide, what we wanted to show you, of one of the interesting structures that we are creating is this program that targets the challenges in the Amazon, in the Amazonic watershed. No? So the Amazon, as you know, it's a transboundary watershed. No? There are a lot of countries that are within this watershed. Of course, there are political challenges and also this, but they share this common problem. No? So this program has been integrated and has been prepared to get finance from the Green Climate Fund. This is more than $400 million that will target the environmental and climate challenges of the Amazonic watershed. No? And finally, if we go to the next slide, I want to comment briefly about another facility that has been built. This is specific for the Caribbean. This is a program that wants to target the needs from water utilities in terms of resilience. As you know, the Caribbean is one of the most vulnerable areas in terms of floods, meteorological shocks. So this program and this facility wants to target these first, the needs. If we go to the next slide. First, the early recovery assistance that is generally needed in these type of events, but also to provide a liquidity after a natural hazard event, no? Which is really a very innovative way to support the sector. Not because we have identified that many times we do a lot of work with our water utility, but these situations comes and the utilities go very low, no, in service provision, and it takes a lot of time to recover from these situations, no. So this program really wants to target that and to try to guarantee continuity in the service, no? And finally, this also supports funding and try to generate and mobilize funds from other financial institutions. And well, finally, to close this intervention in the last slide, please, I want to show some of the publications that the bank has, and you can find in the web page of the bank, of the Inter-American Development Bank, that target specifically this topic of innovative finance. So here we have developed guidelines that want to give assistance or orientations to water utilities, to institutions that want to work in developing these type of strategies on how to approach this. But also we try to systematize lessons learned from the implementation of experiences as the ones that we recently showed. No? So here is well, the names, and as mentioned, you can find them in the IDB webpage. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria Eugenia. This is really interesting, especially all the work related to bonds and how there's this huge cap financing need. So having said this, I would like to open the floor for a couple of questions before we get to the policy part of the program. Please. Well, in the meanwhile, maybe one of the biggest questions that I have, I think, is, especially working with private sector financing and things like that, is why invest in these type of projects? Like, why invest, in the case of Brazil, $400 million just for cleaning water and $2 billion in adaptive services? Or why is the Canal de Panama, sorry, this is a bilingual session, investing in this very integrated water management approach, and what is the experience that IDB has been having in terms of this interest in climate proofing, I guess? For all three. for all three.
Water is a resource, and a resource that promotes life in the different ways. And for us, it's not only about a product that we are delivering for our clients or just to make a profit, but also to manage a very basic resource for a population, that delivers also in terms of higher quality of healthy, in terms of other types of needs. So it's a kind of investment that really need to do, and we need to do in a proper way, in a sustainable way, to make sure that, in one hand, we make our investments worth for our investors, because we have to be accountable for the money that is needed for this type of investment, but also to deliver something that is bigger than just a company goal or a company purpose, which is to take care of a population and to give them the basic conditions for life. So we try to match this view within this private structure that we are insert in. So this is, I think, is the main goal, to combine these two type of purpose in case of our main purpose, let's say, in Sabesp.
I have to say first that by law we are entitled to protect the water in quality and quantity of the canal watershed, but also by conviction. We are, after 20 years of work, that the way to protect those natural resources is working with the population, and also that we have to work more, and what we invest today needs to be more people who protect the watershed, from which all the country benefits, due to income that we receive from the Panama Canal, have also the right to have water for themselves. So we are working harder in a strategy to provide or to improve water conditions for all these communities, and also to guarantee in the long term that we will still have water also for all the population, or more than a half of the country populations, and for canal operations. Thank you.
Well, about the question that how has it been to work in climate change issues within the water sector? It has been really a big challenge, no? So the IDB has been in these discussions of climate change since a long time, no? But it has been really a challenge to bring it down to the sectors, no? And the water and sanitation sector is, well, naturally a sector that has a lot to do with adaptation to climate change, that also has a big contribution to greenhouse emissions. So, so definitely, if we want to approach climate change, we have to work in the sector, no? But of course, as I mentioned in my presentation, there is a big challenge to make water utilities, to make water sector institutions, to make this link between the needs of infrastructure and water security to what the climate change agenda established. But when we manage to do this, no, there are big opportunities that have opened, no? For example, all these blended finance that I was mentioning, no? There are a lot of funds now from the Green Climate Fund, from the Global Environmental Facility, that are there, and where the water sector can really have a big share if we really structure our projects adequately, no? So that's where we are working now on.
Anyone have any follow-up questions to these really interesting points? I think that they both mentioned of the role of water in society, linking it to their own legal mandate, also the financial costs, but also the various barriers for financing and how you need to be able to create bridges along these.
Hello, Marcela Main from the UNFCCC Secretariat, the Climate Secretariat. I have two questions, actually. One is for Virginia and for Maria Elena, please. You both mentioned that there is a positive correlation between improving social development and a positive or a better management of the resources. If you could elaborate more on that, how one thing brings the other one. And for the IDB, I have a question. You said that, if I understood correctly, you said that there is more demand of bonds than those that the countries can generate. Is that correct? And if I understood correctly, then could you elaborate on what countries could do or need to do in order to maybe better match that demand, because there's money then there that is not being tapped, right? Thank you.
Okay, I can start. So I see here, let's say, two main roads that we can consider to combine this environmental goal, let's say, to manage water in a proper way with the social, to promote social, so also social wealthy, and which is, in one hand, we need to take care of the people that we gonna serve, because we need to get in to places that have mainly a lot of vulnerabilities, which means that the same water or the same type of services that we provide to the most wealthy regions in São Paulo, for example, we provide to the most vulnerable regions. So we need to treat these places as is needed. So when we go there with our teams of engineering to make all the interventions of this place, we need to go with this social awareness and with the social programs to make sure that everything that we are building there is gonna last long, and the population and the community is engaged with this new way of living. Because when people are get adjusted with the pollution, with mass type of inhabitations and so on and so forth, it's not automatically that people start to get used with this new reality. So we want to make sure that they have better quality of in life also with this new infrastructure that now they are having. So, and in the other hand, I think is the main purpose, as I mentioned, to manage water management, because when we look to the full cycle, we are not only treating water, we are not, looking to the conservation of the reservoirs and look for more sustainable and efficient way to manage the basins, but also to treat the sewage is to treat the water, because in one hand or another, the polluted water, which means the sewage, will be back to the nature. So to have this awareness and to have the population, to educate the population, to be aware of the consequences of this cycle, it's also our job. In the end, we are contributing to the climate change goals, because the water cycle also have this broader contribution for it. So I cannot see how the social is not integrated with these activities.
I will answer with an example. I just want to talk about coffee producers in the Panama Canal watershed. When we initiated this program, we were thinking on the coffee plant as a means to conserve the soils, as a means to keep the area forested, and that's an impact on the water cycle. We can impact soil conservation, we can avoid soil erosion, but then we begin thinking, well, what happened after we have the area with all this coffee plantation? Is this a business for the farmer? It has to represent incomes and attracted income, so they will continue with this practice that will help the environment and will contribute within the water cycle. So when we program initiated, the farmers sell the coffee grounds to bigger coffee factories that process those grains. Right now, with a more production, commercial approach, we have within the watershed more than 10 different coffee brands, and all these represent direct incomes to the farmer, to small farmers, that helps to continue with the business and all the benefits that these represent for the environment, and also to avoid going to another business or selling their lands to other kind of promoter or other kind of project. So with this example, it's just to show in one project how this social development helps or is essential for natural resource and water conservation. Thank you.
Okay, and about the question about the bonds, no? So while structuring these bonds in Colombia, no, it was evident that the market was more open to more bonds, no? So that's why we say that there's a bigger demand than the offer, and what we could do more. So this personally, I think that what we have to work more is on water utilities measuring. We need data, no? If we don't have data of how much water they are producing, how much water they are really delivering, if we don't know really how much energy they are consuming, no, it's very difficult to structure the KPIs, no? So that's definitely one area where we are working a lot, so we have enough data to structure this type of instruments.
Thank you very much. This is particularly interesting. So now I think it's a great lead up as well to the next part of the session, which will focus a lot more on the policy angle, particularly on how we measure. So with that being said, I give the floor to Mr. Abel Centella from the Meteorological Institute of Cuba. Y esta sesión completamente
And this session fully bilingual, so I invite also the colleagues to be more comfortable. If they want to speak Spanish, to just go ahead. Thank you for affording me the opportunity of being here. And I was thinking, just to be innovative, let's change the language a little bit. And I feel more comfortable speaking in Spanish, definitely. What I want to share with you is the effort we're carrying out in strengthening the monitoring system and drought forecast system in Cuba. Why do we consider that drought is one of the key aspects of, obviously, it has to do with water resources. There are two big extremes. When you have way too much, it's harmful, and when you don't have enough water, it's also harmful. And we have focused on the topic of drought for different reasons. One, like we all know, the increase of the sea levels is real, and the aquifers are open to the sea in Cuba, and you can have salinization. So the reservoirs are compromised because of a natural process of salinization from the seawater. And if we add to this that precipitation and its variability may produce frequent and more intense droughts, what is being forecasted for the Caribbean region, and if we also consider the increase of temperature, the little water that we have, it is contaminated on the one hand, and on the other hand, it is being lost through consumption and transpiration. So drought becomes even more relevant than what it seems initially. We are a small island state, short rivers in the very small basins. So just to explain to you what we are doing, we thought of maybe saying, okay, the data of science, they say it's one of the sexier employments. Anyone who goes into a company and you claim to be a data scientist, the doors are magically open. So we're thinking of this water cycle. But if you have data, first of all, I try to get to know more about that so that they can be useful in modeling, and then to communicate or disseminate the outcomes. So we are thinking in terms of a rationale of strengthening this drought system in Cuba. Next slide, please. Something happened. We seem to be missing some slides. I swear to you, they were there. Well, I still can talk about it. During the preparation stage, fortunately, as a country, we have a lot of information on precipitation, but pluviometer stations, actually we don't have them, so we cannot measure. They're not everywhere, so we have to do guesstimates where you don't have the pluviometer to have the best estimates possible. And we're using a methodology which is innovative, in which we combine the data from the stations on the daily rainfall and topographic variability and different soil characteristics, and we use a grid of regular information. We're building up this matrix or grid, 1 kilometer. Each pixel is 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, where we're going to be measuring precipitation, and we're concentrating also on the quality of information. Today, because of AI in data engineering, you say less is more. Sometimes to have less data but of quality data produces a better outcome than having a lot of data but which is not of good quality. And this axiom has been proven right. And we have been, through that information, realized that different traits of drought, you see a trend that the most intense and prolonged droughts are opening space for a more intense and short duration drought. We're not only working with rainfall and other meteorological variables, like, for example, a flash drought, like a sudden drought, or a fast drought, I don't know what to say. Sometimes the translation is not coming to mind, but it means that it's a drought phenomenon, but it's not the classical definition that, there's a scarcity of rainfall and all that, but it happens in a very short period of time. And we have realized that it doesn't come in the same way in every territory. It's not the same. There are some of higher frequency and others that not. And you combine this with other variables, as I was saying, related with the outflow of water and because of increase in temperature. Bringing this information with other predictors, ocean weather patterns like El Nino, atmospheric patterns, difference in temperatures in the Atlantic, and using different dynamic techniques and AI metrics, we are going to generate seasonal rainfall. Why seasonal and in the short term? Because we have evidence of what's going to be happening in the long run, 20, 30 years in the future. But in the middle, what do people do? You have to inform them so that they can make adjustments and become resilient to the changing climate. Because we all say, yeah, temperature will increase by so many degrees and rainfall is going to decrease. But what happens in the really next station? There's variability. Regardless of the trend, there is short-term variability. Maybe next year is not as dry as the general trend, but it could be a wet year. But we would be ill-advising people if we don't keep the long-term trend nonetheless. So we're building up a platform. We cannot see the dashboard that is being created right now, but in which, and this is funny because we said, what is missing from this dashboard to be able to produce information and data? The methodology and the equations, everything is in our minds and in the computer. So we only needed then get the information organized until the computer process and give back an output. And this is where the secret is kept, this output of useful information. But you also have useful information for decision makers, which are going to decide which is the useful information for the decision makers themselves. But sometimes the experts become so arrogant that we think that we know what the decision maker needs. And what we're doing now with some colleagues from social sciences and politics, we are creating conversation spaces and doing consultation processes that will allow us to decide what is important, not only for someone who has an administrative position, but someone in town, a citizen, a woman, a child. And this process is being developed in the country, with strengthening with the role of women and all that. And all of this, I'm telling you, is happening right now with a short-term, short-name project called Sin Sequía, Without a Drought. But this is to build up resiliency of the Cuban population facing drought, because the final objective is to favor climate change intelligent decisions. I'm sorry, we missed the little drawings, but for some reason the slides didn't appear now. I I hope I was able to transmit the idea. Thank you. Thank you. The importance not only to have planning tools based on water, not only at the public policy level, but also basic decision making for livelihood.
Forward to Ms. Gonda Asang from the government of Suriname to explain what they're doing in adaptation and water management.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, sorry. I will thank UNDP to make it possible for me to be here and to share with you what we are doing right now in Suriname regarding our water sector and the efforts we made for climate change resilience. I will give you a brief overview of what we are doing in our water sector, the current state of integrated water management implementation in Suriname, policy reforms, innovation, best practices, lesson learned, and finance for water security. Suriname is one of the most freshwater-rich countries in the world, recognized by the World Water Council, ranking 6th among the countries that have superfluous water resources. The country low-lying coastline, which is hosting the majority of the population concentrated along the coast, makes Suriname a country highly vulnerable to climate change. Increased intense weather events resulting from climate change have negative impacts. Negative impacts on our water resources, ecosystems, and communities, and imply economic consequences, putting the national and local water security at risk. The water resources sector is most affected by changes in rainfall, droughts, sea level rise, and flooding. Temperatures in Suriname are expected to continue to rise over the medium and long terms, resulting in the fact that the country will continue to struggle with changes in rainfall, variability, both geographically and temporally. Each of these climate trends will have significant impact on the country's water resources. Decreased rainfall leading to drought can negatively impact water availability and quality, resulting in rivers carrying less water, reduced discharge in freshwater sources such as wetlands, and lower percolation and recharge rates for our aquifers. On the other hand, increased rainfall can cause flooding in both coastal and inland regions, and has done in recent years. Yeah, in recent years we have a lot of floodings where our rivers are out of their running. Furthermore, Suriname's coast is threatened by sea level rise, which can lead to flooding, saltwater intrusion, and salinization of coastal salts and aquifers. As already mentioned, all water-related problems and challenges amplified by climate change will lead to serious problems to public health and ecosystems. Concerted and coordinated efforts and commitment from various parties, as well as appropriate legal and institutional structures within the water sector is needed to cope with the challenges from changing climate patterns. What we are doing until now regarding integrated water management implementation in Suriname. Suriname is currently in the phase towards a national integrated water management policy plan. In that regard, a roadmap was composed with action steps leading to the implementation process. On behalf of the government of Suriname, the Ministry of Natural Resources is responsible for integrated water resource management, and also has the leading in the implementation of the water, integrated water resource management. Beside that, this ministry, water resource management implementation is divided among several government institutions. You know, water has several use of dimension, and it is also divided under several ministry and institutions in Suriname. One of the ministry dealing with water issue is the Minister of Health. Another one is the Minister of Public Works, the Minister of Agriculture, also the Minister of Regional Development, and the Minister of Spatial Planning and Environment has water in their portfolio. The policy reforms relevant to ensure water security in Suriname. We are now in the process towards a national integrated water resource management action plan. Various progress has been made and action have been undertaken, whereof some of the most important are we have right now a water directorate under the Ministry of Natural Resources, where I am the PS of that department. And furthermore, we has an installation of a water platform, which is National Overseeing and Advising Committee. This platform has an advisory role to the government. Furthermore, comprised of stakeholders, a representative consisting of government and relevant stakeholders. This platform is not only have governmental members in it, but it is, you can see it like intersectoral platform where government officials and also NGO are involved in this platform. Furthermore, we have our water legislation. Draft water laws are in concept with regard to groundwater management and water quality. What are the innovations we have right now? Innovative solution on conventional water resources and the usage, therefore, increase the supply of fresh water and promote climate change adaptation. In this regard, the following programs are carried out. First one is the increased delivery of water supply and meteorological data for water and climate management under the current GCCA Phase 2 project funded by the UNDP and the EU. The next one, a measurement of the water quality, a baseline study of surface water in Paramaribo, that's our city. The locations were chosen from the activity that are ongoing in these areas. For example, our industrial areas such as Saramaka Canal. Yes, we have also a canal in Suriname, which is a dewatering infrastructure project. The next one, fully remote controlled SCADA system installed for the water treatment plant to improve public water supply. And the next one is the implementation of a climate-sensitive hydrogeological model of Suriname River Basin to enable the economic valuation and estimation of the impacts of climate variability based on the 2030, 2050, and 2070 climate projection. What are the best practices we are facing with? Several projects have been carried out in the process toward the National Integrated Water Management Plan, such as the Suriname National Adaptation Plan, which intend to enable Suriname to conduct a comprehensive medium and long-term climate adaptation planning. Also, Suriname conducted a sector adaptation strategy and action plan for water resources in Suriname. Other actions which support the progress are data sharing information within government institutions, collaboration with all relevant stakeholders, installation of hydro. Oh, yes. Okay. Lesson learned. Knowledge is a key ingredient for effective integrated water management. Within the progress of implementation, on all levels, there are some cases which we, as country, has learned from and taken action in order to prevent recurrence. And one of them is access to safe and affordable drinking water in the interior, whereby we had a possible contamination of surface water resources. The partners we are working with in order for Suriname to become climate resilient, we have a relation with the ACTO, Anna from Brazil. We have a knowledge transfer project with Colombia, and also a bio plateau project. And my last point is about financing for our water security. Effective water resources management for both national and subnational level requires financing for initial water investment and recurrent costs. The financing for initial investment relates to the financial resources needed, for example, for preparation of an integrated water resource management strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Conda. That's very interesting on the importance of all the work that has been done around climate modeling for water and for long-term sustainability. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Brian Bonaparte, the project manager from the Climate Resilient Water Sector Project in Grenada.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. That is as much as my Spanish will go for today. It is my pleasure to be here this afternoon to talk about the GCRUISE project, which is the Climate Resilience of the Water Sector in Grenada project. It is a project that is financed by the GCF, Green Climate Fund, the Grenadian government, and the government of Germany. Now, one of the key aspects of this project is component 5. This project consists of 5 components, but I will focus more on component 5 today, which deals with the community of practice. So one of the main objectives of the GCRUISE is to share experiences and lessons learned and enhance capacity for writing proposals to the Green Climate Fund. Now, SIDS, which is Small Island Development States, represents only 4% of all the Green Climate Fund financing, right? Only 4%. And we as Small Island Development States face numerous challenges, primarily capacity constraints, right? And the aim of this project is basically to bridge this gap, help us as Small Island Development States to access this finance more efficiently. So the regional community of practice, as you see here on the slide, creates a space for supporting GCF concept developments. Yeah? As I already mentioned, the facts. Next slide, please. Next slide, yeah. Okay, so this COP, Community of Practice, consists presently of 22 national designated authorities, or NDAs, throughout the region, right? Now, this this COP consists of practitioner members and observers. The whole method of getting this membership for the COP, what we did is that we reached out to the member NDAs of various regional countries, formally, of course, through the various ministries, and then we actually went ahead and started having our COP meetings. The COP meetings basically is held every quarter, and persons are invited to present on topics of various interests. So far, we had 4 COP meetings. Now, the whole idea of having a COP basically is to share, like I said before, lessons learned, and to be able to get countries to access financing more efficiently. Next topic, please. Next slide. I think that's the last slide. Yes. We just continue. Now, so far we had 4 COPs, and we had some very, how should I say, successful sessions. One of the sessions entails basically our sister project from Barbados, which is the Water Sector Resilience Nexus for Sustainability in Barbados. The project manager shared basically her experience in terms of helping the project to be implemented in a more efficient manner. And one of the areas that she highlighted in terms of lesson learned is basically training. Training, especially in areas like procurement, etc. Now, this is something that's very lacking in us as small and developing states. And we took from this meeting that same idea and bring it into the GCRUISE project, and has incorporated training of our various project stakeholders in procurement training from time to time. And this has helped in our speedy implementation of the project. Another aspect of the COP that was held to is with the St. Lucia Water Resource Management Authority. And we in Grenada here is basically in the process of establishing the Water Resource Management Unit. And one of the key lessons learned from that engagement with St. Lucia Water Resource Management Agency is that the Water Resource Management Unit should be set up as an autonomous body and not under a ministry. And that was a mistake that St. Lucia had made and was shared in that COP meeting. So basically, as our country going forward to establish that unit, we are looking at setting up that body as an autonomous unit inside the Public Regulatory Commission building. So it would not be hampered by the day-to-day activities of the Ministry of Agriculture, for example, but rather it would have its own governance structure that would help in its proper implementation of its governing of our water resources. The COP is also engaged with helping countries to develop concept notes. As small and developing states, as you know, writing of concept notes and so for organizations such as GCF is quite tedious. It takes time, takes resources, and sometimes we lack that as small and developing states. But by having a COP, we are trying to encourage countries, and it has happened, for example, in St. Kitts, to meet and help to flesh out concept notes so that it could be submitted to the GCF and other donor agencies. So these are things that we are trying to encourage in this community of practice as we leverage, and we try to encourage countries to get this funding from donor agencies so that they're able to access funding to do more water resilient projects. We are also, there's one area that we need to do though. Right now, the COP Secretariat is located in the GCRUISE project. However, the whole envision of the COP is to have it as a self-entity, as I would say. Because as you know, project has its time frame. So after the project is finished, we are hoping that this climate resilience and Caribbean group, will be able to be self-sufficient, will be able to carry on the mandates of the COP long after the project is finished. So therefore, we are trying to work on basically an exit strategy. That's one of the areas which we actually have not fleshed out as yet, but is currently being considered an exit strategy for after the project to have this COP being continued. So basically, that is a nutshell of what we're doing under the GCRUISE project in terms of the community of practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brian Bonaparte. And I think it's extremely interesting for those that capacity gaps and the need for information is something that's been highlighted as a key barrier to access to financing and for water management. So all of these examples that you have been provided on what you are doing that's so innovative provide interesting policy responses or interesting ideas for us to look at. With that being said, I would like to open the floor again for any questions that you might have for our three final panelists or for any of the other one. Y las preguntas pueden ser perfectamente.
And questions can be asked in Spanish. Again, we are using simultaneous interpretation, so feel at ease with whatever language you want to choose. Please, go ahead. Good afternoon. This is for our Cuban colleague. How do you choose a scale to measure risk or to see a resource? For example, that's one of the main questions when you're going to study water or to study any other resource, soil, for example. In your own experience, from an island context, how did you do? How did you choose a square kilometer as the most adequate scale?
Bueno,
Through experience. When you make an estimation to a given scale, relatively big, a lot of kilometers, for example, what you are getting is an estimation of an area, thinking that the larger the area, the estimation, that the estimates are going to be very broad, more so than local. So it's a matter of balance, because when you're estimating more focused, you must try to get a robust estimation so that it's not so big, and also that it becomes useful. If you make an estimation at 10 kilometers, it may be that from the agricultural point is not that good because you have many farms, agricultural companies, etc. And another element is the older climate information that you are going to be combining at what scale you're using. So I don't believe it's a one-size-fits-all, this scale is better for this or this scale is better for that. It just depends on the available data. It depends on not only climate data, but soil data and other type of variable that you're going to combine to get the final estimate. Everyone's going to say they want greater resolution because everyone wants a response on top of their own house. Sometimes you can make an approximation and other times you cannot. It's a commitment between many different factors. We chose 1 kilometer because the results of the estimates are quite useful. Comparing estimated versus observed, the results are positive. So the uncertainty that we had when we were estimating using that resolution has become really good. If we do this at 500 meters, maybe it's not convenient. We wouldn't have to discard it. But one more time, I don't feel there's a one-size-fits-all type of answer.
More question before the session closes. Tenemos tiempo para una pregunta más.
One final question before we close this session. Nope. Okay. I do have a quick question.
For all three of you, which is, you mentioned financing as a huge burden to be able to implement these water management plans. But at the same time, we also hear the fact that there are these possibilities of working with blue bonds and things like that, and this financing that could be available. What are the biggest challenges you're seeing as a government to be able to the cost of climate change for water management, or to be able to harness it? How can the development group begin to support in that, or how can we create these capacities? Para Abel, mencionamos justamente que pues mucho de esto requiere grandes niveles de inversiones.
She is repeating in Spanish exactly what she just said in English.
Sabemos que hay una oferta de financiamiento para adaptación que existe. ¿Cuáles son estos retos principales que se pueden tener, que se tienen y que pudiéramos apoyar para poder cerrar esta brecha? Una pregunta para cualquiera de los tres. A question for any one of three.
Thank you, Ms. Massa. I understand the question correct. Is in Suriname we have some priority areas where we need finance for talking about our drinking water, and those areas are we need support for our monitoring of our water quality, drinking water supply, early warning system with regard to flooding, and water resources contamination. These are the priority areas we need funding to safeguard our water resources.
From the Grenadian government, Grenadian side of things, water is, as you know, water is life, yeah? One of the priorities and one of the things we have seen in recent years is erratic rainfall patterns, yeah? So basically, getting access to finance to do these water-related projects is a priority. And one of the challenges that's been facing the island is limited storage capacity, yeah? Aging infrastructure, that's another aspect as well. And this has been deteriorating over the years. As you can see, we can no longer depict when is our actual rainfall season right now, rainy season. So more and more over the years, water has become more and more of a priority, more of a major concern, especially with increase in tourism, which is one of our major income earner in the country, as well as agriculture, agriculture production. The demand is more and more. So therefore, getting access to the financing to do these water-related projects is more and more critical from our country's perspective. And also other small island developing states. The challenge we are facing is basically accessing this finance due to a limited capacity, of course, when it will be human resource, in terms of writing proposals. But other forms of getting this financing need to be explored, of course. Other avenues need to be explored, but that is something that's on the table and is currently being considered. Yeah.
Bueno, yo te puedo decir desde el punto.
I can say the scientific feeling about this. Sometimes it's a little bit complicated that through this project you can create science. General, you said, how do we resolve this problem of water, the balance, etc.? And these are useful projects, of course, but when you say you have to apply science to this, then you start looking at weird faces, sometimes finding projects in which you can create science that could be useful later on to comply with the slogan of adaptation based on science. It's a little bit difficult. So maybe there's a mindset that is not truly open so that scientists can contribute more, that the adaptation would be science-based. Thank you, Abel. We have a final question from Teams. This is really the last one.
Tenemos los micrófonos abiertos para que puedas hacer la última pregunta de la sesión.
Sí, muchas gracias.
The presenter from Cuba and one of the other panelists talked about the big incidents on rainfall coming in two fundamental ways, either with droughts or in floods. In the Dominican Republic, flooding for a long time has been a great threat. All of this work of gathering data and information that you were talking about, the gentleman from Cuba, this information is translated mainly on basis that would be reference points for planning, but also regarding climate change that has been so variable and changes have been so unexpected that oftentimes, personally, in the past 10 years that we were forecasting, we see how a lot of climate change have come sooner. With your experience, what would you say are the forecasts that we can place forward based on the accumulated data and the information that you have? Will they be useful for planning in case of future events and the disasters to come and the risk that they represent? What's the degree of certainty that this will happen? What's your experience? How do you manifest this?
Bueno, voy a ver si entendí la pregunta porque es un tanto peligrosa una respuesta de seguro.
I have to consider a careful answer. I cannot say for certain. The climate is changing and surface temperature in the air is increasing, and it is difficult to achieve the objective of 1.5 degrees as the target, because we're rapidly getting there. There are many certain things about climate change, but other things there's no certainty. The models that we use are not completely accurate. We cannot say that what the models are saying into the future with full certainty are going to be just like that. The pattern of rainfall, for example, over Cuba or the Central American region, etc. We have to forecast with a range of certainty, but this becomes more complex when we have elements of natural variability like drought. Drought is something we cannot say in Central America or the Caribbean, it's going to be permanent drought. We cannot say that because the precipitations are going to be like that. We cannot say that. There's going to be times when we're going to have floods. Whether they're more frequent or less frequent, that's when you come closer to the harder question. How sure are you that a drought in the next 20, 30 years is going to be a permanent phenomenon in all of this territory in the region? What we're really certain is that all models are saying that there is a greater frequency, that they will present with more intensity, but since we don't want to wait to see things happening 20, 30 years in the future, we are trying to find tools that will allow us that in the next season we can tell the decision makers, you know what, for the following season, with a greater degree of certainty, we're going to have an intense drought. So there are possibilities to respond to that event. It doesn't matter what's going on from here to 20 years. If we cannot tell to someone that in next season you're going to have less water, then possibly there's going to be a lot of precision of what's going to happen between now and 20 years. But what happens if someone dies in the next season? We have to be able to fill the gap with what we're still trying to adapt to the local climate, and the events that are produced today will be affecting us with or without climate change. That's a reality. Drought has always affected us. The increase in frequency will affect us more, but that's a reality that facing what's coming in the short term, it could be very useful within this season in changing weather patterns. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias, Abel. Thank you so much, Abel. So I think our time is actually up. I don't know. I will just give 1 second to see if there are any final thoughts from any of our speakers. Well, if not, then thank you guys so very much for attending these sessions. They will be here all the time, and they have some absolutely wonderful experience to share. Thank you for joining us for this session. Just for everyone to note that the next session on sustainable landscape approaches will take place in this same room in 15 minutes' time. Thank you.
Take your hand, my dear, and place them both in mine. You know you stopped me back when I was passing by. And now I beg to see you then just one more time. Oh, I see you every time. And on my eye, I like your style. Oh, you make me, baby, wanna cry. And now I beg to see you then just one more time. So I dance for me, oh. I've never seen anybody do the things you do me, oh. See, move for me, yeah. When you're done, I'll make you do it again. My dear, and look me in my eyes. Just like a monkey, I've been dancing my whole life. And you just beg to see me dance just one more time. Oh, I see you every time. No, my eye,